another Wright Stew podcast. I'm Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright. And on my favorite day, Friday, we have made it. A lot of bad, not great basketball for the ACC yesterday, but
Hey, you know what, Brian, though? The Will Wade era has started. He just chalked that up to his first victory for NC State. He beat a conference opponent. McNeese State came in and just took it to Clemson, man. So if that's an indication for you Wolfpack fans out there, Will Wade has got what you need, and he's bringing that to the ACC.
That's such a Wolfpack mentality to claim a win when our coach, who knows, you know what's going to be the biggest letdown? He's like, I'm going to just stay at McNeese State.
Stay at McNeese.
You know,
I'm going to leverage this victory into a better – is there a better job out there for me?
I mean, there may be. I mean, there couldn't be many jobs from the SEC. 14 of the 18 are in the NCAA tournament. I imagine you're not firing guys if they're making the tournament at this point.
Those other four better watch out, though. Those four that didn't make it.
Yeah, that's not untrue. Not untrue. I don't think it's a sure thing. I think I was really disappointed with Louisville's efforts, Clemson's effort. Effort may not be the right word, maybe more execution, but they I haven't seen a ton. I saw scores, saw a little bit of highlights, watched a little recap, and I guess maybe the pundits are right. Maybe the ACC is just terrible.
Well, here's the thing. Duke and UNC play later today. It just takes one of your teams from your conference to make it to the Final Four to make it look good. When you're doing some revisionist history and looking back over time, it's like, oh, well, they had a team in the Final Four, and that's what people look like. And for the longest time, it has been Duke and UNC, right? So,
well, I would say I don't think anybody's really doubted Duke.
No.
A lot of people have doubted UNC. Nobody's really doubted Duke. I'm just really disappointed because Clemson was a legit number 2, or I guess
5 seed. They were a 5 seed.
Yeah, they're a 5 seed, but in the ACC, what they finished 3rd?
Yeah.
And then you had Louisville, who finished 2nd, who loses to. Yeah, that's bad.
Creighton smacked them around. Yeah, but they had
maybe it's a bad matchup.
Well, it was a tough. I mean, it was an 8-9, so I think Louisville didn't get a great seed. Either way, you got to win who's in front of you. You're eventually going to have to play Creighton, right? Creighton's not a power, right? They have a good team. McDermott's out there coaching, did a good job with the team. Louisville just couldn't. Man, it couldn't.
Hey, why do you think he just stays at Creighton? Like, I'm sure there's had to have been better opportunities. I think NC State had been rumored at one time. Is Creighton obviously, I guess you don't have to worry about getting fired. He's done so well there for so long. It's obviously Kidd was a really good player.
Yes, Kidd went there. I mean, maybe he's an Omaha guy, probably grew up. It's one of those things. Maybe that was his dream job. There's security in the job. He's probably I'm imagining he's pretty rooted in that community as well. I mean, the grass isn't always greener, right? Sometimes you go take a new job and 4 years later you're gone, or a couple years later you're gone. And I think he's at this point in his career and life, he's probably well past wanting to go to an ACC SEC school, right? So it could just be one of those things where he found a good spot and it was home and he loved it. So I like that kind of stuff. I mean, when somebody sticks around and stays at a mid-major kind of conference school and really invests in the players and community, and he's not getting one and dones, right? He's getting probably if he gets a couple 2-star recruits, he's probably like, we got something going now. But those are the type of teams where you have seniors, you've got guys sticking around. They had the one guy on the team who was 24 with a kid, and I saw some jokes.
Couple ex-wives.
Yeah, I saw some jokes on social media. It's like, it looks like my accountant, that sort of thing. And so there's those kind of things out there as well. But I'm happy for him. I think if I got into coaching, I could see myself doing something like that, sticking around at kind of a mid-major school sort of thing, and just really loving it.
That's interesting. I think I would at least, and probably career-wise, you can kind of see it too with life and different things. You kind of chase what you think is that kind of prestigious job, and then you're like, hey, I just want a job that I can make a good living at and I don't hate. right? And I imagine it's a little bit different thought process with coaching. But I don't know, Paulie. I think you would have chased, that big job at least at one point in time in your career,
Yeah,
the
well,
Alabama or the big SEC
honestly,
job.
so I did have some opportunity after baseball to get into coaching. I never, and it was all pro jobs. It was, pro pitching coaches and like scouting, that sort of thing.
That lifestyle sucks too.
No, yeah, honestly, I never considered college coaching at all because I didn't go to college to play baseball. I mean, I went after my professional baseball career, but I had really no ties or ends. And if I were to go that route, it would have been like, hey, Paul, you can be the third or fourth or fifth assistant coach. We'll pay you 15 grand and you can work camps on the weekend and do lessons at night. And at that time I had two kids and really no time or interest in doing that sort of thing. So
But if you would have, let's just pretend, revisionist history or whatever we want to call it.
yeah.
I don't see you staying at like a mid-major. If I see you having success, I feel like your nature would have been to take that next challenge. No? Am I wrong in that?
As, as a younger, late 20s, early 30s, maybe you try to climb that ladder and find somewhere that really fits. But again, like McDermott, that's Creighton's not a small school, right? It's in the middle somewhere. And again, he's rooted in Omaha, I'm assuming, and has some ties there for sure. But yeah, you're right. I probably would have tried to achieve to a certain level, and maybe I got to a bigger school and did well there. But yeah, nothing I'm really worried or concerned about at this point. How about you, Ryan? Did you consider getting into coaching?
No, no, no. This is all
Yeah,
hypothetical, right? I mean, this is all hypothetical, and I try to relate it back to real world stuff. Like you stayed at Cisco for a long time when you worked, right? And
yeah,
so you were kind of satisfied in that role until you felt like, hey, I need to do something different. And I've kind of been the nature that I do kind of look for that other opportunity. Now, I do think there is some pros and cons to both. You mentioned earlier on, guys who switch jobs tend to have how higher salaries
yeah.
over the life of your career. I
I
don't know if
saw,
that's
yeah,
always the case.
I saw a statistic the other day that said people who change jobs every 3 to 4 years, on average, earn 50% more over their lifetime than people who are more loyal to a company or organization. Again, that was like a meme or something I saw. I don't know the validity to it, but it sounds true. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah, I would say I've definitely, you know, I've never been afraid of change. Always been a lot more afraid of monotony, of
Yeah.
not progressing, of dreading, of not having a way to provide more, do more. And so, yeah, I mean, I consider coaching. I considered it really after I had kids, and so it becomes a different decision at that point. If you coach, you got to have a couple things in your favor. You got to have some connections. You got to
Yeah.
have a wife or spouse, partner, whatever you want to call it, that is willing to sacrifice. Doesn't feel like they've got to be rooted. Doesn't feel like immediately they got to have all that Jerry and Joe has down the street. And so you got to have the right partner or be single. A lot of coaches, stay single to well into their 40s, and it's a little bit different, thought process because you do have to move a lot early.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they're divorced several times as well. Yeah, and that was I had a lot. I loved all the coaches I had in pro ball, and they're all wonderful people. And there were a couple of divorce situations, and the other thing I saw was like their kids were going to their first day of school, or their kids were doing some kind of fun and cool things, and they're stuck in a stadium somewhere, hundreds of miles away. It's like, man, I don't want that, and especially as the kids got into school age. Mine were very young, right, when I was still playing, but yeah,
I definitely think the pro lifestyle is much harder. I
pro
think
life
it's
is
much
much harder.
harder.
Yeah, and again, that's to going back to McDermott, right? Kids in Omaha raising a family, you stay put there, so it makes sense, I think, and yeah, I guess none of those coaching jobs. one of my really good friends in Charlotte, he was kind of played a little longer than me, right? And got done and was wanting to stay in baseball. And they offered him a very similar role. It's like, hey, we'll give you some on-campus housing. So he was married with no kids at the time. We'll pay you like 12 grand. And then they're like, but get this, you can work camps and do pitching lessons. Literally told him that. And he was like, no, like, so literally like my life will be 18 hours a day, like just hustling on the, doing stuff like that. And he's like, nah, I'll just try to get a, quote unquote real job. And that's what he did. So man, it's tough. It's tough. And that's why you see a lot of young people, as soon as they get done playing or they're, 22, right out of college, stick with it. When there's less responsibility, right? You're not responsible for a spouse or a child or anything like that. And you can slum on somebody's couch if you need to, right? Or you can
That's right.
have a couple roommates and it's okay. Or you can eat some ramen noodles for dinner.
Let's talk about what you call those, first of all. It's ramen. It's not ramen. It's ramen.
Tomato, Brian. Tomato.
It is not ramen. Who has told you it is ramen noodles?
That's how we pronounce it in the Stewart house, buddy.
You are an anomaly to the world.
What do you call the bike race that happens in France every year?
Tour de France.
You call it the Tour de France?
Isn't that what it's called?
People call it the Tour de France.
Well, I mean, that's just a little bit of a different enunciation because it is a different language.
Okay.
But I'm saying I never even had, so I'll kudos to my parents. I never had ramen noodles until I was well into college. I didn't know it was kind of a thing.
I don't remember having them either. When did they become a thing?
And now my kids love them. I know they're terrible for you.
I love them too.
Videos out about having parasites in them and all this terrible stuff. You shouldn't eat them that often. High in sodium and terrible things. Ramens are terrible for you.
Really? Well, I knew that, but I mean, yeah.
But I never had them well into college.
No, I didn't. I never had them growing up either. I thought they were a fairly new thing.
In full disclosure,
Have they been around?
I think they've been around a long time.
Okay, just neither of us were exposed to them.
Yeah. Good parenting. Not my parents did better than I do because my kids. Hey, one of us, 2 or 3 of us have already eaten. Hey, it's ramen noodles. Have some ramen noodles and a peanut butter and jelly, and we'll call it a meal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty solid meal. So that's a PB&J. I'll say it used to be a staple of minor league life.
It's still a staple in Brian's life.
Yeah, I don't know. I think minor leaguers are getting fed a lot better now.
I don't disagree.
But man, a PB&J, I liked a lot of PB&J on it. Like just slap a lot of peanut butter, a lot of like give it some substance. White bread always. When I got a little fancy, I'd find a banana or some strawberries. I'd slice that up and put it on the sandwich as well.
So you do peanut butter and jelly and banana.
Yeah, or like strawberries. If we had those on the spread, I'd chop those up in there as well. Just
that's interesting. I've never had strawberries on a peanut butter and jelly, even though I've had strawberry jam. So maybe close.
Yeah, it's a similar concept. I think when you're in minor league life and you're like fighting for just any food you can get, you're like, oh, I'll just throw this on. It's just kind of by necessity, and it's like, well, strawberries taste good. And
yeah,
it's a jam as well, or a jelly, so it can't be too bad. Those spreads were pretty terrible for us. One of my favorites. So Visalia, California, the Visalia Oaks. They had a grill, kind of like a big grill, right in front of where our clubhouse was. And the guy was always, you get there early and you could smell like the wood burning and they would cook some really good food out there. But when we were there, I would get 2 pieces of bread and a piece of cheese. And I would go out there and I said, hey man, can I just put this on your grill? And I would make myself like a little grilled cheese while I was in.
So I think the spreads had improved by 2002. I mean, it wasn't great, but mine, and again, I didn't play as long as you did in minor league ball, but I never felt like we were low on food, and honestly, never felt like A lot of times we'd have ham and cheese too, and I would
Ooh, big
say,
time.
yeah, yeah, maybe a little salami if you're lucky. Um, yeah, so I never,
Indians were taking care of y'all. Dang.
yeah, 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 and but yeah, I never felt like there always was enough too. I will say
Well,
there
there
was
was always
always,
enough, but a lot of it was, it was up to the individual club. As you get to double A, it gets a lot better. But like A ball, Ogden was pretty good. Rookie ball, we did okay, and I think it's just so much of it depends on the stadium, the team, that and the clubby that you have really makes a big difference for that. So it's kind of a crazy life, Brian. So Brian, the spreads were one thing. So when I first started in the minor leagues, our per diem, our meal money was $15 a day. 1 5, 15 bucks. And then I remember like a couple years in, they bumped it up to 20. And they actually kind of gave us some like back pay because they did it like on the second or third road trip. So a couple times we were like, man, we get 25 bucks today. Like, what are we going to do with all that? But some of it goes to the clubhouse attendant, and you're paying your dues and all that sort of thing. So it's not really that much. You're basically clearing like 10 bucks a day to eat lunch off of. Do you remember? Did you have a favorite spot that you would try to hit before a game, after a game, that sort of thing?
well, I think of Wade Boggs always eating grilled chicken
Chicken.
sandwiches, and so we did tuna sandwiches at Subway, $5.
Oh, the five
And
dollars.
yeah, that was when they were truly a foot long and truly were $5. So that was kind of the way, we maintain our bread. I mean, we spent, when you're in that environment, you had a sign bonus. I had a baby one in comparison. But you spend all your money. The goal was to make it to the big leagues, and if you don't, you got to go do something else. And the food is one of the things I think was really more challenging. And I really think I was getting into it. Obviously, I had two back surgeries, and after the first one, is paying for a trainer. So I went and
Mm.
paid for a legitimate trainer, and like he was a physical therapist slash trainer, had his own business kind of before a lot of people are doing nowadays, where you see a PT guy that's kind
Yeah.
of set up doing arm care, doing different things, and that's how he was set up, to where hey, he could do PT, but he'd also train you, and that's really where it got challenging, because then you're just working your off-season job, you have to live at home or in a really cheap situation because you're just paying somebody to get you in the best shape you possibly could get in, and that's what I did. I mean, we didn't do a ton of bench press, but I did 345 twice, just kind of as a test. I got my vertical up to 33. Had a broad jump that was just over 9 feet. And so some of these measurables that are,
Dang.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything now, and you can't tell by this body I can do anything. But I would say we were kind of ahead of the game. Clearly, I got hurt again and herniated another disc. But as far as shape, we didn't do any. We did a lot of leg press, a lot of single leg stuff. A lot of stuff that I'm doing with my son now kind of started with those ideas of a lot of single leg isolation type things.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of money went to that because you saw the guys in our area, especially if you're a corner outfitter, you're going to hit some home runs to have a
Yeah.
chance to make it to the big leagues. And so that I wanted to look like Brian Giles or look like one of these guys who had made it, and those guys weren't small guys. And so
Yeah.
I think now what I'm always amazed by, and I think about Bobby Witt Jr., and I know he's not a small guy, but even Pejoria and these guys are, and Atuve, who's obviously just the exceptional example.
Yeah, he's a
I've
freak.
always been amazed by little guys that can create bat speed. And I'm convinced it has something to do with, kind of the kinetic chain in the weakest link. And like even small guys, you think about Pedro, you think about guys from a pitching perspective that are much smaller than you that can create big velos. And it's like, what allows them to do that? And they've the science is starting to come along a little bit, the sequencing, how does everything work together? And, you can only have, if you back muscle is a little weak, the muscle that slows down your arm can only be so weak, or it hurts velocity as well. Well, I'm still in that search of. I'm still always amazed, looking at guys that aren't big guys. You look at Mookie Betts right now,
He's
dude.
not. Yeah.
If he walked off the bus and saw him walk down the street, he's a normal guy. Heck, he may work at Centos or something, right? He's not a guy that you're overly impressed by their physical attributes.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of my thing, is just being really interested in what makes guys be able to create this torque that makes you or a powerful athlete. And so I chased it a little bit when I was a player. Obviously, wasn't healthy enough long enough to see it through, and kind of chased it a little bit with my kid because it is something he's into just from a athletic standpoint. Loves football, loves baseball, but it's interesting just to see like, and even now we see it. Like when I went and coached at that little perfect game, and there's some really good players down there. There was a pudgy little kid that was from Randolph County.
I know you loved him from Randolph.
Yeah, I loved it. Had my accent, a much thicker version of what my accent is now, but a much thicker version.
It was like a 12-year-old Brian.
No, dude, he was like a 12-year-old buddy of Brian's. Like I was always a skinny kid, or I'm not now, but I was then. But dude, barrel to bat skills were phenomenal. He looked kind of like he should be getting ready to play softball, but dude, he created juice. And he didn't have this body that these other mature kids that already hit puberty had. So in a lot of cases, he was like a foot shorter, or at least 8 or 10 inches shorter. Because you had kids that were legitimately, 6 foot tall, 6'1", 6'2". And this kid's 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", maybe. And but I love the swing. Now he didn't make the next team because some of the other things, his body didn't move great when it comes to playing defense. But his ball to bat skill and his juice to the ball, I loved it, dude. I loved it. A little John Kruk. Imagine a little miniature John Kruk.
Oh, a little Matt Stairs. Remember Matt Stairs?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys that could just swing it, man. Put the barrel to the ball. And you saw when you stepped in the batter's box, you're like, hey, what's this guy doing? He shouldn't have a gut at 21 years old. And then rat-a-tat-tat.
Yeah, and I'm still all those guys. You think about mechanics today, and we've never dug into it because I know you're a pitcher, but you see the different guys in the launch angle and kind of the thought process about getting barrel and zone early. I was always big barrel and zone a long time. I wasn't as big. I think you get in too early now. You get uphill and get out of zone real early. I don't love everybody trying to teach the way Aaron Judge hits because Aaron Judge is 6'7", 260. I much prefer some of the other guys.
It's like Frank Thomas was similar, right? Frank Thomas was like 6'6", 275. And
you can't teach, what 10 or 12-year-old.
Yeah, Aaron Judge does some things the right way, but I know a lot of people would go after his personal hitting.
No. First of all, I don't want to get at – dude, what he does works for him.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I was going. Like,
yeah.
But with Judge and Frank Thomas, some of these guys – Aaron Judge is legit 6'7", 6'8", and 265, 270, and really strong. He can make some mistakes and do some things that other human beings just can't do, right?
I'll go back to my favorite player as a kid, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have taught people. I wanted to hit like Ken Griffey Jr., but you couldn't teach that. He barred on this back end.
Like a golf swing almost.
Yeah. He got really long right here. He stepped away from his hands and did things. That's the only reason. So I'm really big and really hesitant to ever change a kid's swing because I think nowadays somebody would have tried to teach Ken Griffey Jr. to swing different, Barry Bonds to swing different. Maybe, even Jeter. Jeter really fought inside out the ball. Somebody would have said that was terrible. He couldn't have been a all-star Hall of Fame shortstop for the New York Yankees because of his swing.
Best ever. Yeah.
And really, really good player. So I'm really always really hesitant. I do think there's some things you got to do when it comes to the swing, but I'm really hesitant to change anybody's that I haven't spent a lot of time with, just because there's some things people can get away with because biomechanically they're different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, what do you see from the pitching standpoint, Paulie? I'll say this. I see a lot of different thought processes on pitching, sequencing, heavy balls, long toss, different thought processes on that. How you gather and how you create the sequencing and pitching. What's kind of your thought process on that?
Yeah, I like nice, smooth mechanics. I like the ball coming out of your hand clean, hard, but looking smooth and effortless. Right? You see a lot of guys. I'm not a big fan of the we've all seen the videos of kids with no shirts on, crow hopping and throwing into a big black mat and hitting 100. And hey, if you're playing right field, that's cool. You can't crow hop on a pitcher's mound. You can't. You really can't crow hop anywhere except for the outfield, right? So, I get it. It gets your arm speed, gets you velocity, but it doesn't teach. Ultimately, pitching is about throwing strikes, throwing quality strikes, changing speed. I think we've gotten too much into, again, velocity is great, right? Velocity allows you to make more mistakes, but it can't be the only thing. I mean, yeah, great,
It
great.
feels like it may not be the only thing, but it feels like it's the number one thing, and
It's
then
one
everything else
it's
is second.
one A, one B, and one C, and then
Yeah.
everything else is takes. Well, then spin rate is a big thing as well, right? And we talk about arm injuries and why it's happening because we now are teaching our kids to do these things at a younger age, and if you can't do these, then you're not going to be able to play at this level. I've talked to college pitchers now, college kids, and they're like, "Yeah, my velocity is not good, so the coach won't give me a chance." It's like, "Yeah, man, but you're throwing strikes, you're getting people out." I don't throw 87. They want somebody throwing 87. Yeah, depending on what level you're at, right? I was like, well, you got a couple kids throwing 87. How are they doing? I can't throw a strike. Getting hit all over the yard. Well, who cares, right? So for me, and a lot of it goes back to at the younger ages now. And again, this is why I like Little League. I wish we could play Little League rules until we were 12, right? Where you can stand the windup. There's no leadoffs. Pitchers can legitimately develop and throw strikes without having to worry about holding runners on. Or if you walk a kid, and Brian, we both coach when if you walk a kid, it's a triple, right? That's what it is at those early ages because you get the leads, kids can't hold them on. You're teaching them bad habits, and kids start slide stepping, coming loose on their mechanics, not using their front side. So I
And
think
we
that's
really only started seeing that to change at 12U, really, when kids, the bases get a little bit bigger, your catcher gets, if you got a good catcher, you got a chance at that point.
yeah,
But up until that point, you're absolutely right. It was a triple, you know?
yeah, and
And it's not really baseball. I'll tell you another thing I saw at our last game that really fired me up. Last little
so
middle
this
school
is
game.
a middle school game, right?
Yeah, middle school game. So all these kids, 7th, 8th grade, pick off, and the kid immediately jumps back out there before the pitcher is even on the mound. And first time our pitcher lets it go. Second time he throws it immediately back. He dives and he's immediately back out there. And I just wonder if these kids like ever watch like a real game. What real game have they ever seen a guy get picked off and immediately jump right back out there to his lead? And it's like there's these weird like kids think they're competing when they're really just looking stupid. Um, you're down 8-2. It's later in the game. You get out, you do nothing but hurt your team. And you're trying to make this about you and how tough you are. And it's really just more of a how stupid you are and how coaches should say something to you and be like, hey, if you get picked off, that lessens our chance to have a chance to come back. Right. And so I wish kids were, need to watch a little bit more baseball. But I still want to go back. Do you believe in like heavy balls? I see like Trevor Bauer, who I love, who believes in heavy balls and does a lot of heavy ball stuff. Do you?
Yeah.
I know that wasn't your philosophy when you played.
No, we didn't do heavy ball. Like when I played, it was just long. It was long toss. Like legitimately, that was pretty much it. I know the Reds got into heavy balls a little bit. A couple teams did, but it wasn't a thing. We've done heavy balls with my son a little bit, not a ton. I think what happens is, you're throwing with those small muscles in your shoulder and your elbow, and kids they start trying to throw too much of a heavy ball, right? Or maybe they're under the guidance and instruction of a pitching coach or a trainer, and they're doing it the right way. And then they get home like, I'm going to throw a 2 pound ball, whatever it is. Like you can't do that, man. You're gonna get hurt. So I think there's definitely a place for heavy balls, right? Definitely a place for band work and for some of this stuff. Um, but again, I think it needs to be done in sequence, in progression, and too many people now want to go faster, harder, longer, sort of thing, and they just overwork those small muscles. And again, that's why we encourage kids to play other sports as well, right? Go play basketball, give your arm a break. Go play football, go hit somebody, give your arm a break, right? So that's one of those things. So again, I don't have all the answers. I stayed pretty healthy for 10 professional seasons. Did okay. Um, so that my encouragement. Like with my son, we're doing long tossing. We're throwing bullpens in the backyard. We're doing that and just working on throwing strikes. Honestly, his changeup right now is better than mine ever was. He's got a great changeup because I know how effective it is, and I know I couldn't throw one.
So you knew, hey, son, you're going to get this down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is it to throw a good changeup. It takes some confidence, man. It's a tough pitch to throw, but he's getting some strikeouts with it, having some success, and his moves pretty good, and so it's encouraging to see that. But like the changeup's probably the toughest pitch to hit, wouldn't you say?
I agree 100%. And I think, these guys who throw hard, that if you have something else other than that, other than just throwing hard, I think it's really tough, man. And they're running, the ball's running. We talked about the spike change, or I don't know if we talked about it on here, but that's another one where it really essentially backs up. Man, there's a lot that guys can do with pronate and supinate and really make that ball work and move. But yeah, I would definitely say from my error, the changeup was, and I'd say honestly, you threw it for a while, and I know you stopped, but the forkball, splitty.
That's just a whole different thing, though, dude. Because mine came out like a really hard knuckleball.
And then you had some people do like a split finger fastball that would get some dip at the end. That really
just tumbles, yeah.
Yeah.
Like my forkball was legitimately like an 80-mile-an-hour knuckleball. It was just that's what it looked like, and just kind of danced in there and dropped at the end. And it was a good pitch, but they told me to stop throwing it. So stop, stupid. Still kept throwing it.
Hey, man, we've been all over the place, man. Obviously, we got basketball today. We're gonna get through work. We're gonna make it happen. And yeah, dude, I'm stoked about the weekend. Hopefully, some college baseball, some good games. No local teams around here because we were trying to find a way to make it happen. But
yeah,
we're going to have some pretty good different little podcasts coming up, and maybe we figure out a way to get on site somewhere and have a little Wright Stew podcast from a ball game and see what. And the reason it's so fun to go to a game with somebody that knows baseball. It's fun to take your kid and kind of talk and, hey, what'd you see? But I really, truly enjoy going with somebody who's really into it and be like, hey, did you see that pitch run? Or did you see, what was he doing right there? Or it is so fun to go to baseball with somebody who knows baseball.
Well, Brian and I we'll watch games not together, but simultaneously. He'll be at his house, I'll be at my house, or we've gone several games together, obviously. But I remember specifically there was one play. So this was and you may remember it. It was the World Baseball Classic, the last time they played it, and there was a throw. Somebody was stealing. We were watching the Team USA game. It was in Miami, and Trey Turner picked the ball.
Oh, it's the smoothest pick ever.
He picked the ball. It was a short. It
looked like a cartoon character.
Yeah, it was a short hop, but he just sat there. The ball hit his glove. He didn't move and just put the tag down. And I think to like anybody else, but Brian, I texted, was like, "Oh, did you see that pitch?" It was
it didn't look real
thing. Yeah. But for us, it was like, but we knew how hard he worked, how many reps he took.
Oh yeah, and we know how hard that is, right?
And how athletic he had to be to get there, to hold that tag, to not move his wrist. Like I don't think the glove went back an inch and put the tag down, got the guy, and it was just. Again, to somebody just watching the game, it just looks like the most normal play because he made it look so normal. But
it wasn't. Yeah, that's right.
Knowing everything that just went into that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Really good stuff. So, what everybody enjoy. I'm sure there's some brackets that have already been busted. I'm positive. I'm certain of that. And we're gonna continue to pull hard for our ACC brethren, but it's not looking good. Not looking good. And maybe Brian, we can extend that to McNeese State, and your new guy, Will Wade.
I hope it is. I hope it is the case. I hope it is the case.
All right. Well, y'all enjoy the day. Talk to you soon.
Out. Go Pack.